do it for others, because when I saw her freezing and suffering, and that's how I know she loves me, because she. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today we're talking about how bad do you want it? You got to be honest. Do you just kind of want it? Do you really want it? Do you want it as bad as you want to breathe? Like that Eric Thomas video that I mentioned a few episodes back. There's also a book, Good to Great, I believe, and they talk about how good is the enemy of great. When things are good or decent or going pretty good, it can really be tough to push ourselves and go harder, like to get to that next level. And I've shared this recently, I have my fair share of commitment issues, and maybe it's like I'm playing at 80%. I'm not truly passionate about it. I kind of want to see how it goes before I really go all in. And when we do that, it's ironic because we're actually going to cause it to fail because we're not putting our all into it. If we really want to see something successful, if we want to see the outcome that we desire, we have to focus and go all in. So I have an example. I have a college friend who is really crushing it in real estate. He's hustling a bunch. He's doing a ton of deals. I mean, he kind of mentioned some of his numbers on a story, like I got this much pending, which I believe was like $80,000 or $90,000 of potential commission, like under contract, on its way to closing. Maybe if a few fall through, like he still makes 70 or 80 grand, but like dude is crushing it. I don't know. I would guess that he's probably making 250K plus a year right now in terms of commissions. And I was asking him how he stays motivated, and it was funny. We were just DMing on Instagram and he's like, dude, I have a kid now. That's my motivation. I want him to have an amazing life. And I was joking either with him or with another friend, like, man, maybe I need to pop out one of those, because if that's a renewed sense of motivation, like sweet. But seriously, I don't know. I've mentioned it before. I don't know if my fiance and I want kids, at least not at this time. We haven't really spent much time talking or thinking about that. But all jokes aside, you got to find your why and you got to stick to it. And it can sometimes be tough to find that why for just us, because maybe we don't really care about us as much, right? We have a low, we're not very high maintenance. We don't really want for many things, like myself, for example. I created like a picture collage with like 5 or 6 photos of my family, my fiance, our 2 cats, our dog, like traveling. We've got a surfboard in one of the pictures when we're in Bali traveling. We've got another photo in Greece, my fiance and I. And it's on a whiteboard, so I can literally see it. Like if I look past the camera, it's right there on my whiteboard staring me in the face, along with a couple of motivational quotes that I've said before. Success is my duty, obligation, and responsibility by Grant Cardone. And then a Frank Kern quote, suspend disbelief. Great reminders, as well as other leads and things that I'm working on. And another thing that I remember hearing is that if you can't do it for yourself, do it for others. Like if you're not motivated to kill it financially and like really crush it and bring in the money and, put the food on the table, do it for others. Perfect example. I guess I might not have ever really shared this. A few people have seen the story, my journey or whatever. But when my fiance and I were dating, she actually moved in with me. She was my girlfriend at the time. I had a house that was built in 1935 that I had bought. It had no central AC or heat. I believe the people before were using a sketchy space heater that I just decided to give away because I was like, I don't want the house to catch on fire or whatever. And so timeline, I had bought the house in 2016. I still had an oil and gas corporate job, it was easy for me to get a loan on the property. So I had quit my job for the entrepreneur thing in 2017, still had the house, quit in March of 2017, I believe. She moved in shortly thereafter when her lease expired. And again, I had like window AC units. Like I had a window heat cool unit in the 2 bedrooms, and the heat sucked. When it got cold in the winter, I know you're like, oh, Houston doesn't get cold, but like it gets cold with the humidity. Now that I live in Denver, it's drier here. I honestly feel that it's colder in Houston, or at least it feels colder in your bones with the humidity. And so don't give me none of that, like, oh, it's Texas, it doesn't get cold. Like it was cold. And so it would be 28 or 30 degrees outside in the winter, and my house was freaking cold. And so I mentioned I bought the house in 2016. So I survived that first winter on my own living solo. But come the next winter when she was living with me, that's when I felt terrible because it was so cold. You could see your breath inside the house, like all the other rooms that didn't have any central air or heat. I pretty much lived out of my bedroom because that was like the one room I could sort of control the temperature on. And it was literally this cold. TMI, a little bit, probably too much information, but I'm not even joking. It's a little funny looking back now, but like we had a puppy, we had gotten a puppy together, our dog, Maya, our German Shepherd. And it was so cold that she still wasn't 100% potty trained. She'd like occasionally poop in the house on the tile and we'd be able to clean it up or whatever. But she pooped inside and it was so cold, I swear you could see the steam coming off of it. And that's when I realized, like, dang, it's cold in here. And so where I'm going with this is that when I lived alone, I didn't really mind. I kind of sucked it up the first winter. I took a hot shower and like towel dried off very quickly before the cold air like froze me up. But then when I saw her freezing that second winter, it really sucked because I had, spent money on an invention idea, had a guy steal like 10 grand from me, an ex-business partner who maxed out the credit card and stopped paying. Plus I had all these bills, wasn't quite making the money I used to, barely making money at all, trying to figure things out. And so I didn't want to really spend the money or make that investment, the thousands of dollars that would be required to install central AC and heat. Like a problem that I could have solved a few years ago with just paying, because I had $60,000 of savings in the bank and I was making 75 or 80 grand a year, now became this thing that I was like, man, I don't really have the money to pay for that. And these companies, like, I guess you could put it on a credit card sometimes, but most of them want you to provide your ACH. Like they want a wire for the job done so they have the money in the bank and they can complete the work. But anyway, do it for others, because when I saw her freezing and suffering, and that's how I know she loves me, because she put up with that and she's still with me. When I had the good job, when I quit and had no money, to figuring it out slightly, and still I don't feel like I figured it out. I'm seeing a little more success and momentum here and there, but it's still very sporadic. And so I wasn't making much money, but it made me want to push harder, provide a better place for her, a better life for her. And we had both taken pay cuts, right? I quit my oil and gas job. She was a service advisor. We both met. We were doing really well financially, and we both quit to pursue something that we're more interested in. I started working with a wholesale real estate team, and I was hardly closing deals as I got started. I think I made 30 grand that first year, something around there. And she probably made around similar, taking a pay cut, working from like being a service advisor at a luxury manufacturer, Mercedes or one of those places. She had been a service advisor at a few places, to becoming an accountant or bookkeeper at like an exposition services company. And so anyway, your why is going to get you out of bed whenever you can't think of a reason. Like, think of that why, have that collage, have that memory burn into your mind that makes you feel like such a failure. Like when I could see her freezing and she's trying to go to sleep and we're using 3 blankets and a freaking space heater, one of those little like ones that you put up on a TV tray or whatever. Like it was that cold. All the animals were sleeping on the bed and I unnecessarily struggled. I mean, to be fair, I probably should have done that upgrade when I had the money and the job. But anyway, this isn't a sob story. I was blessed and grateful to have a roof over my head, and we did just fine. And the moral of the story is just to keep pushing and do it for others. I keep saying do it for others, because again, I could have lived there for 3-4 years and just frozen every winter until I had the money to pay for the stuff and then make it happen. Unfortunately, we ended up doing that eventually. We did install the central air and heat, sold the house later, made a profit and everything. So it worked out well. The story had a happy ending. So you can probably resonate. You can probably relate to some of the stuff I'm saying here. It's a weird part of the journey that's like, I still made money on the house when I sold it. It was cool, but I probably could have done a few things better there. So the question for you is, how bad do you want it? And I've got to ask myself that too on a daily basis. I look at things that other people have, the places that they're able to go, the lifestyle they're able to live, and I want that. I want to be able to take my family, my fiance on a first class flight tomorrow, or like charter a jet and just fly private to a vacation in like the Maldives or Dominican Republic. And right now I'm not at a position to really be able to do that and spend that kind of money like that kind of way. And so just knowing that I'd like that, my ideal outcome, the dream life, how things could be so much more amazing. Like at a certain point a few years ago, I couldn't even spend, $8,000 to $10,000 or whatever it costed to get the central air and everything installed in the house. How can I get to that level where I can just drop, $5,000 a person or whatever the flight, the charges are to charter a jet tomorrow on a short notice? That's where I want to go. How bad do you want it? Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself going? Dream big, take massive action as always. And let me know in the comments below, what is your dream? What is your vision? What is it that you're working towards? What is your why? Who is your why? And with that said, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate your time. I got to share a little bit of the story of me unnecessarily struggling and freezing in the winter because I just chose to do that, to be scrappy and not spend money. I'm sure you've got stories like that as well. I'd love to hear the comments below. If so, feel free to share or feel free to DM me as well. So that's it. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for your time. Take care.